I'm a major researcher. I've been going down rabbit holes pretty much my whole life. I was born really aware of this, kind of greater mission. My great grandfather is former President Eisenhower. So that was very like, that really, affected me. It just felt really close to him on a spiritual level. I feel like I've been working very closely with him. And I'm also, an experiencer, and I've had my own, crazy journey. My background's wilderness education, expedition leadership, but I moved into the field of, astrology and doing workshops and presentations. And I used to, travel the world sharing my research, but now not really traveling so much anymore. And my favorite thing to talk about is Gaia Sophia, the planetary consciousness, what this ascension window period is about, and what our junk DNA really is, and kind of bringing back a much, much bigger picture that obviously we're not given in school. To help, activate people and, remind us, who we are and what we're needing to, get in touch with, particularly in these crazy times where they're trying to really pull the carpet from underneath us, so that we don't advance as humans. So really focused in on that and assisting people on their journey to, move into higher earth energies, a higher state of awareness. Focused on, human advancement and our great potential and the power of the human spirit, which I feel can conquer anything. And in these times, we really need to amp up those energies, even though I know it's been a big roller coaster for people. It's been a roller coaster for me. But anyway, yeah, so that's kind of it in a nutshell. I'm working on getting some books out there, but as of right now, I'm just continuing to put, presentations out with, online events.
That's great. I'm just in so much admirement of you because of your mission, which is vital. And I think that many of us, we just really need to, a lot of us are hanging on by the fingernails at the moment, and really going through it. And I think, well, this, Laura, that when we do this work, we get hugely targeted to varying degrees, depending on our mission, I guess. But we do get hugely targeted. And I think that's been ramped up at the moment. So many of us are just kind of reflecting, I guess, or riding the waves. But it is affecting a lot of us personally, with lots of different stuff coming up. So I'm really interested in your knowledge and experience and understanding on astrology, and especially the galactic wars.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, just to address kind of what we're going through, I mean, this dark cabal has been manipulating world events for thousands of years. The difference with what's going on now is it's much more in our face. The final kind of showdown, where to me it's like a big breakup happening. So they are kind of rejecting individuals with censorship and this level of control, but at the same time, it's sort of like being in a relationship with a destructive person that isn't allowed to, or isn't able to get away with maybe what it was able to get away with. The control that it has on us, fake media and a lot of the lies and deceptions that we've been, living with, people are seeing through. So they don't want this relationship anymore because they don't own us. They can't control us. So this is a good breakup. I mean, it's a bummer, to lose a channel or be banned from, social media because of the friends that are being made. But in a way, we don't want to remain in any kind of relationship or connection with this. And so they have lost their control, and this is their retaliation, is to almost, try and silence us. But every attempt is only causing greater growth and expansion, and people to really join together and put their heads together, because we absolutely don't need them. And they're all spy platforms. They're all about surveillance anyway, and these systems of control are cracking because our consciousness is expanding beyond it. So even though it shows up as, oh, suspension or being banned or censored, when I see it on a larger picture level, it's not a terrible thing, because you can't overpower spirit. And when one's already in their soul consciousness, they've already moved into the higher ascension energies. They can only really, control people on a personality matrix level, and all these different tactics. So of course they only want to keep around the ones that are going to do whatever they say and comply and follow, the rules, even though these are real, people connected to major criminal activity and cover-ups and scandals. So anyway, yeah, so the astrology kind of shows this challenge. Saturn is going to make a squared aspect. It already is with the planet Uranus till about 2023. And Saturn, just like any planet, has its dark side. And people are very familiar with, Saturn and some of the history connected to Saturn, and also the Saturn moon matrix, and the dark elements of Saturn connected to tyranny, control, outer authority, and, dark agendas, and, Saturn, Satan, and, some of the things connected with, ritual abuse and just this, satanic cabal. There's a black cube in Saturn that, harvests and collects all this, energy from these dark technologies, which, siphon our life force, and also, the ritual abuse and everything, is to just keep it in this low vibration of control and tyranny. And then that affects, the moon, the artificial components of the moon, and how that has a big control on the minds of humanity. But that is actually breaking down. So their kind of upgrade is what we're seeing in the world today, in order to keep us in fear, in order to keep those programs running, and to expose us to, weaponry and different tactics to keep us engaged. And so, these wars are really ancient. And so Uranus, Saturn making a squared aspect to Uranus. Uranus is all about liberation, freedom, sovereignty, connecting to our higher mind, connecting with the truth frequency. And it's an electrical energy. It's very, very powerful, and it stimulates our nervous system. So it's the planet that connects us with synchronicities and downloads and epiphanies, and also things coming out of like left field that are a bit unexpected. It's also known as the planet of shock and upheaval, but it's kind of like shock, upheaval, and crisis that leads to great awakening. So it's the great awakener and liberator as a planet. So if Saturn's making a squared aspect for the next couple of years, and a squared aspect means friction and challenge, Saturn, is trying to keep the awakening from happening. And so that dark tyranny of control is trying to keep people from what Uranus really represents. So it's holding, on. So, the way the planetary bodies are playing out, we're like the living embodied myths connected to these planetary energies. So we have to raise our vibration to the higher octaves of these planetary bodies, despite what's going on in the world. So the highest energy of Saturn is self-mastery and becoming like a teacher, and really working with the law of structure based in what works with our physical structure, what makes us healthy, and how can we live in harmony with nature and thrive, and have disciplines that we actually enjoy that help us to be healthy, because it does have to do with authority, responsibilities, and discipline. But the question is, when it's outer authority, is it abusive? Is it tyrannical? Is it controlling? Well, so, we need to kind of harness those energies and determine what we can do for ourselves in our own life, and where our boundaries are, and what rules we want to keep and what we don't, maybe resonate with. Well, some rules we have to follow whether we like it or not, but it doesn't mean that we have to be internally controlled by it. We can be internally free regardless of what's going on in the outer world. So even though this is playing out, it has to kind of exhaust itself. And so this struggle with Saturn and the awakening process is what's kind of playing out. And it's exactly what we're seeing is, mandates and things being forced upon us. And this is when we just have to step into the higher energies and find self-mastery in the face of it as we navigate this, and stay real connected to the frequency of truth and authenticity, which Uranus represents. So that's kind of what's happening this whole of last year. The Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn conjunctions that have, peaked and kind of separated a little bit, but basically have been in, a conjunction sort of state Pluto, Jupiter conjunction more recently than the Saturn, Pluto one, which was early last year, really does represent the paradigm shift that we're going through. So they're just trying to stunt our growth and put as many blocks and delays in this process as they possibly can, so that we actually fear death to the point where we lose the ability to really live to our fullest. And that fear of death is what we need to let go of to complete the transformation, because Pluto is the planet of death, rebirth, alchemy, transformation. So for us to be able to transform, we have to be able to let go. And people are holding on to the old paradigm for dear life, and they're afraid. And so, a lot of people who are susceptible to believing what they hear in the news, just really are not connecting with their intuition, and are kind of being assimilated in ways that are kind of making them worse. And people are noticing crazy behavior and just this digression going on. So we got to figure there's, kind of a bifurcation process, happening. Obviously it's a gradual kind of splitting off, and that's represented in where, we have our boundaries and we're cutting cords and attachments from things that keep us bound to the matrix. So, even if one's, awakened, there's still sometimes a lot more work to do than we, can imagine. So self-sufficiency is really important. Connecting with the earth is really important, because the planetary body is an ascension planet. And it was seeded as an ascension planet, and that was following the galactic wars. So these galactic wars happened, almost destroyed all life in the time matrix. And so the whole sort of notion of seeding humans was disrupted and then recreated to bring in higher DNA expressions that they don't want us to know about. That's why there's amnesia and all these different tactics to cause us to forget what we're really made of, and how yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Thanks, Laura. So when did the Galactic War start? Because my understanding is that they started at the downfall of Atlantis. But am I correct in saying that, or is that not right?
Well, I mean, it goes way, past that, but, we're dealing with different, cycles, right? So, the initial galactic war, where it all kind of began, is the Lyran system. And that was like billions of years ago. We weren't like Earth inhabitants in the way that we are now. So when we're talking about, things on Earth, the fall of Atlantis, I mean, that followed the Lemurian Holocaust, the Electric Wars. And then, there's the Nephilim Wars and the Sumerian Egypt invasion. And that was like when we really lost our galactic memories and our DNA. A huge portion of it became junk. And then the indoctrination of humans really began. So we see in school systems and just the way that we're raised, a very, very limited, education. So we're not given like the fuller picture. Yeah. So, the reptilians originally attacked Lyra, and then it stepped down to the Orion Wars, and then exploded planets like Tiamat really threw off the balance and really, altered us in a great way. And we sank down into this lower harmonic universe. So Tara collapsed into Eartha, and being, higher dimensional beings, we, fell into this lower density, and Milky Way galaxy fell away, became a fallen system, separated from the Andromeda galactic core. And we've been sort of rebuilding and going through a lot of experiences to regain that DNA architecture and to recall our, galactic memories. So a lot of different events have taken place, a lot of, different wars. Then we had Maldek explode. So when we dropped into this lower Earth density, then you got 7 root races, you got 5 starseed groups, and we're meant to, share codes and rebuild our DNA. And that's why there's such a tactic to conquer and divide us, and why there's so much sort of like Holocaust and genocides throughout history, so that we're not able to repair our genetic code. And so, that's the major, targeting of humans. And so the real greater purpose that we all hold is to regain ourselves from all this. And especially with the exploded planets, it really threw off the balance of the masculine and feminine. And so it was very easy to control us through these distorted sort of versions of, the masculine and feminine energies. And, and there's a lot of manipulation connected to that in the here and now that we're seeing. And so it's just like we have to win the war within ourselves. We have to, kind of understand what's being targeted, and really just do the inner work and unplug as much as possible from all the external stuff that gets thrown at us. When really, it's really about self-discovery and what we can organically and naturally connect with, that gives us a whole different kind of education than what we're going to get from school systems or books. Not to say that books aren't important, but we have to kind of push ourselves to expand beyond what limited information we've been given. And of course, going to the library and searching the internet, I mean, it's all there. It just takes a curious mind to reclaim the lost history, you know.
And because there's so much there. I didn't actually attend my secondary school. I think I went once a week for each year, roughly, which actually enabled me to channel the Pleiadians. And they said to me, you know, I mean, I did try. I went to school a couple of times, and I got to the school gates. They were huge, black school gates, and I mean huge, like 20, 30 foot across and wide and tall. And I got there and I was 12, and I just was held in this energy where I couldn't move, couldn't go forward. And they said to me, word for word, we stopped you going into the school system because otherwise you would have been lost to us. So I now see that as a positive thing. I didn't for a lot of years. I always felt that it was a hindrance to me not to have schooling and a formal education. But now I see it the other way around, where it actually enabled me to be on my path and walk my talk, you know. So anyway, I've got a couple of questions for you, Laura. One is about the moon, and then also there is because I was on the beach today and I was looking at the water and I was wondering about the moon, and I was wondering because the moon had such a huge effect on the tides and the ocean, and I was wondering if the moon is man-made, not man-made, but if it's a made kind of huge device structure, then it has such an effect on the oceans and the tides. And I know that I believe I've been shown that the Earth had a lot less ocean. So if the moon is structure, was it made at the time when there was much more water on Earth? Because we used to have a lot less water on Earth. So would that is the moon real, and does that coincide with that time? And also the other couple of things I wanted to ask you: have you seen there's a video on YouTube where there is, and I can't remember the name of the lady who did it, but there is 7 flashes of the sun, where the sun flashes 7 times. You should check it out because it really looks very genuine. It looks real. And I think it was in Mexico that it was recorded, but the sun flashes 7 times. It's very interesting, fascinating to see. And I was wondering about that. And also, when did we lose our galactic memories? When was the veil put in place?
Well, it's been a slow kind of process and progression, but I would say about 5,500 years ago, and I'll get into detail about that. But just, kind of to wrap up the thing about galactic wars, who's fighting who? Well, it's really, service to self, antichrist, kind of, lower type fallen beings versus, those that are service to others and that are more the guardians and, founder groups and what they seeded as advanced souls. So it's sort of like, sort of a battle for the human soul or to modify or hybridize the humans so that they worship lower creator gods versus, the true cosmic trinity or the 0-point unified field energies where, you've got, mother, father, God, and Christ, Sophia. And that's all part of our DNA. So it's all about, those veils and it's just been stepping down throughout all these different, kind of wars. It was very, very polarized in the Orion Wars. And there was, like the resistance and the Jedis and, and like we're seeing on Earth with Starseed missions, things to counteract all these different assaults and attempts to be our rulers and be our controllers. And then it goes into a much deeper history connected to, Sophia. And I don't agree with all the Gnostic texts so much, but I mean, there's a lot of truth in them as well. But a lot of these ancient texts have been distorted. The moon came in at a later time and like from the Guardian perspective, they say that the moon is an inorganic structure and it did not come from our solar system. It's an artificial satellite and it's locked into orbit with the Earth body's magnetic core. And that's why the water and the tides and this and that. Basically it was brought here during the last war between the Pleiadians and the reptilians. And it is currently used by reptilians and Greys as an alien base. And so many have talked about all, that lives inside of it, and it's kind of like a Death Star. Does that mean that there is no positive attributes to the moon? I mean, we have to get to the higher octaves of the lunar energy. And so that's part of the process of awakening, the inner divine feminine and moving out of the programmed sort of storyline of, the exiled divine feminine and the false king of tyranny, like, being in control, which is where Saturn comes in. So that whole Saturn moon connection, we just have to break through that. Then we move into the higher octaves of the moon, and the moon actually brings us back to like Tiamat. And that's considered like the dragon queen energy. And that existed in the 5D Taran higher, earth energy. So we collapsed into this lower density, but this planet was seated with the 13-dimensional core. But because of a lot of the wars that took place, the aqua ray, the mother energy, was not able to stay grounded in the earth body. And the way that they impacted the planetary grid network and put things into reversal codes has we're just pulling out of thousands of years of these reversals, dark mother reversals, sort of Baphomet, the dark cabal kind of running things behind the scenes. Now they're trying to, get their last bit of power and control to kind of seal the deal of the deeper agenda of, pretty much taking over Earth, conquering this planet and taking over, humans. So it was about 5,500 years ago when our DNA really became junk, and we just got accustomed to being humans as we, are humans now. And yeah, so we learn in science class that our DNA is junk, and the dark technologies and the reversals are what kind of keeps these fire codes scattered. False narratives, propaganda, and all the stuff streaming through Hollywood, TV, magazines, fake news, false history, rewritten history. And the way that partnerships and relationships have been modeled to us certainly don't remind us of sacred union, sacred sexuality, and what used to be such a priority and focus in ancient civilizations that were highly advanced. So that began to degrade or digress. So this is just a process of really, getting it back. And
And today's date is the 12th of the 2nd, 2021. So is that, what's going on today with astrology? Is it important, or?
The astrology, like currently?
Yeah.
It's, it is, we feel it whether we know what the aspects are or not. The planetary bodies affect our organs, our endocrine system, our energetic body, our meridians. And they are a part of us. They are kind of a living representation externally and how we relate to it of something that's going on within. Based in our own unique astro map that we are born with is how we kind of interact with the transiting planets and what they're doing currently. And to me, it's like a map that helps us to get to the 0 point, get to the center, learn from these patternings, let it kind of like guide us into, a level of self-awareness and sovereignty to where, we're not so maybe pulled all over the place by them. Right now on a collective level, though, there's no escaping what we're all dealing with. The whole planet's going through this, and it's basically, the battle, the final kind of showdown with these dark controller forces. And so, 6 planets are in the sign of Aquarius. The moon just moved into Pisces. We had a new moon yesterday in the sign of Aquarius, and it does make a squared aspect. The Saturn Uranus squares like amplified with all these planets in Aquarius. So people probably, like most people, are feeling a lot of tension because the Saturn square Uranus creates a ton of tension. So that can manifest as panic attacks, anxiety, restlessness, especially like empathic people processing the suffering going on and the confusion that people are feeling. And then people that are struggling with like, what to believe, you know, what's fact, what's fiction, you know, those that are kind of like in that middle sort of, you know, they're not totally asleep, but they're not fully awake. And then you got people that are getting almost like more asleep and more entranced by, you know, the negativity that like cheer on people getting censored and, you know, like actually have really dark and violent thoughts to anybody who thinks differently based on how they were able to create such division and polarity, polarization, you know, in this last election. So, so it really depends on the individual.
I'm just going to
You know,
jump
we might
in
all
there,
be experiencing the same kind of transits, but we're not experiencing it the same way.
I'm just going to jump in there. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to ask you about, because my dreams have been like really fucked up and way out there. And I know a lot of other people's are as well. So I wanted to ask you that, you know, how are your dreams and what is going on in the astral? Because there is so much going on. It seems like everything is heightened. Everything is on warp speed and hyped up, and everything is so, everything, there's a sensitivity to everything at the moment, to our energy, to everything. So what is going on with your dreams that you're willing to share, and what is going on with that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're in an ascension window, right? People talk about 5D Earth, right? So that brings us back to the higher harmonic universe where Terra existed. And that's, you know, when Earth was called, you know, we were Terrans, you know, Tara. And so 5D relates to the fifth chakra and the power behind our words. You know, if we're under mind control, the quality of our words and what we express is in that matrix frequency that, you know, is like spreading a virus. It's spreading fear, hatred, and just all the things that they're trying to program humans to be focused in on, so that what they're sharing through the voice is not a 5D energy. So the fifth chakra is actually not functioning at its full capacity, but a true 5D vibration to move us into higher.
That's tied into the masks then.
Yes, and I'll share about that. So so when we look at 5D, you know, dimensions 4, 5, and 6, we're going from, you know, the astral, the upper 3D and 4D. We're dealing with archons and astral parasites, and we're moving through, you know, this veil. So it's the veil between life and death, and it's also the veil between our dream world and our waking world. And so this veil is filled with a lot of dark entities. That's why everything is increased, because we're like facing it head on in a way that we haven't. It's always been there, but we've been more unconscious to it. Now it's like in our faces. So we're moving through this terrain in order to regain our truth and our voice, right? So of course, the symbolism of masking us and all the censorship is the fear of the power of truth and what that frequency can do, because it does awaken people. It is a higher vibration than the dark technology. It can actually dismantle dark technology and, you know, like epigenetics, it can heal us and cause us to release ourselves, you know, from the fear of a virus and actually talk our way into this beautiful transformation and great health and well-being, you know, based in being aligned with our authentic truth, our higher mind and source energy, and how we bring that in and begin to communicate it with one another. Then we're more in the 5D, right? So we're in that, we're at that like edge where, you know, all these different tactics are to kind of reroute us so that we digress and go the other direction. But once a person's aware and in alignment, nothing can stop it. I mean, they can use all these tactics, but I mean, I'm glad I'm kind of feeling my sense of humor back around all of it, because it's been kind of a really rough week or two. But I mean, the amount of starseed missions, benevolent groups, and I mean, there's so much that is
like a huge uprising.
Is ensuring that we're going to make it and cross through this barrier. But this is very much a peak time of, you know, total, you know, discomfort and confusion and like, oh my gosh, you know, but you can't put people back to sleep. You cannot conquer and take over spirit, or the fact that the mother energy has anchored itself back into the planet. So when I said the aqua ray was not able to be grounded in the planet as of like, well, it's really been like 26,000 years, but especially, you know, as of 5,500 years ago, it has returned. And the proof of that is the sun started to move through the 13th sign of Pleiades in 2010. There was a major timeline shift and the mother energy returning, and all the grid workers and the corrections of the planetary grid network to ensure that we're not on an artificial timeline. They're literally just trying to bind us to something that really doesn't exist anymore. And it's actually moving away a lot more than we realize. But you know, it's just very aggressive, and it's holding on for dear life because this is its survival. Because it does use it as a food source because it lost its direct connect with spirit. They compromised their DNA on purpose for that reason.
And
or at least some of them.
And do you think they're ever going to realize that they've lost? Is there going to, I mean, they seem to be, I've been told this is the last battle and it's the war between light and dark. And they've actually, by putting this negative agenda of the C19 into us, into our energy, into our awareness, that we're riding back on the wave and waking up like never before. So it seems that from the positive there is a negative, a huge negative. Sorry, from the negative there's a huge positive. So when are they, I mean, is there anything in astrology, when are they going to realize that they've lost? Is there any turning point in astrology where?
Not really. I mean, because again, we all experience this differently. Some people are, I wouldn't say like awakened means enlightened, you know, to the point where, you know, all of a sudden one's levitating or has their avatar consciousness fully intact, because we wake up in this, you know, density and we're sharing this, you know, density. So there's a certain agreement or not maybe agreement, but it can be very difficult to advance oneself in you know, sort of a heavy density sort of thing, unless you really step away, get off the grid, you know, and find solitude and just, you know, get away from it all. But, you know, we're here to assist and help. So, you know, that can be frustrating because it slows down a person's vibration, makes them feel like they're not really progressing. But we have to realize, you know, what we're up against and what we've agreed to that temporarily puts us in a, you know, a lowered state. So it's, you know, I look at it like, you know, cosmic EMTs coming in to put out, you know, a fire, you know, but in the attempt to assist, one gets injured or one can, you know, be highly affected by what they're dealing with in the battleground to help souls liberate. So, you know, it really just depends on the individual, their own personal chart and the way they're experiencing their personal life experience. But as far as, yeah, like ascension energies and, you know, victory, ever since the sun started to move through the 13th sign, that pretty much, you know, was it. The energy of the ether, which connects to the mitochondrial DNA and the fifth element, is now available and back in circulation. So if we're distracted away from it, we don't benefit from it. So if a soul, you know, recognizes like, okay, ascension and human advancement is a cosmic and earthly event, and there's an ascension window period, a prophesized ascension window period. The Mayans talked about, you know, December 21st, 2012, but it's the whole window of like from 2000 to right around now and a little bit beyond, I'd say to like 2025, you know, then we're going to probably see like a major, you know, splitting off at that point. I don't like to put dates on it though, could, you know, last a little bit longer. But so the sun moving through the 13th sign made that energy available again. And so symbolically, the inversion of the pentagram has been corrected and now it's upright. And the Venus transits, the orbit of Venus and the patterning of the traveling planet Venus forms a pentagram in the sky. Astronomers and astrologers noted that the path of Venus actually draws a perfect pentagram and also sacred geometry of a rose. So this is like Sophia's correction. This is the correction on a planetary level of these galactic wars and this digression of humans and the return of our awareness and the recovery and rebuilding of our DNA and the reawakening and activation of our dormant strands. So when we connect with nature, especially in these times, I mean, it's like earthing or like, you know, just being connected to the solar energies and just really, you know, spending time, you know, in the beauty of nature. That's where we're going to get the activations. And this is available. Yeah. So they like to reverse and invert everything. And as long as a person's plugged into that system of the matrix, they're still going to attempt to do those reversals. So it depends on what being you are, as far as, you know, do they accept victory? Do they realize, you know, what's going on? I mean, if you have a narcissistic sort of hybrid individual who might have like 100 altars, who's playing a role in the political realm, I don't even think that they can comprehend any of this, because they're not fully in possession of themselves until they really, begin the healing process. They're really just being operated and used. And they've bred a lot of humans into these, programs and projects to use them, especially in these end times, to kind of run the control system and to make, life, real difficult. And a lot of people are waking up from that and recovering from it. But yeah, multi-generational, trauma-based mind control and horrific abuses. So those individuals, when we look at, some of the political players and, maybe some in Hollywood, I think they're very fragmented, but maybe a part of their ego just doesn't accept that, they could ever lose. They're not programmed to think in those terms. Maybe there is an alter or an aspect of them that can, but see, we're dealing with like time travel technology and their ability to jump around timelines and, do what they can to kind of manipulate past events and kind of predict future events in order to create a false flag or psychological operation to trip people up at particular times that we could really, take a huge leap. So it's almost like an endless life cycle of trying to, take us down. So it's not like, oh, okay, there's victory and there's defeat. It really depends on the individual. Only the individual can really claim victory over the dark forces and then experience a timeline that reflects that back. And so anybody who's on that timeline where a person has unplugged or unhooked from that matrix web, they're kind of leaving behind a system that is still attempting to enslave souls. So you're not going to run into somebody on that greater timeline who's like, oh, I'm going to accept defeat and there's been greater victory. I mean, maybe, but but at that point, they really don't, have a hold on you. So it's not like, I feel like the 3D system is going to completely vanish, but I believe that we all have the opportunity to achieve victory over its attempt to control us, siphon from us, digress us, and, utilize these, dark, weapons and tactics to keep our DNA compromised. So I believe the human, claims victory, moves on from some of this darker stuff, experiences a greater timeline, and they've lost their grip on another soul that they might have attempted to, control or feed on. And so to me, that's a personal, kind of victory to, anchor or stay connected with, the organic ascension timeline. And they cannot exist in that organic ascension timeline at a certain point. Right now, it's sort of like, they're sort of side by side in a way, like kind of parallel. We're dealing with, parallel dimensions and timelines. So we're witnessing both at the same time, but when there's a split off, there's not going to be like an acceptance of victory or failure, because they're still going to be trying to, run their life cycle with the dark technologies and the souls that they were able to, kind of claim or hold on to. Eventually, I feel all souls will eventually be free and, and they'll just return to space dust. I don't think they're going to be able to process victory or failure, though. It really, kind of depends. I think some probably know that it's inevitable. They're going to lose their grip on us, but they're just trying to grab as many as they can on their way out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's all they're doing now. It's like the death rattle, isn't it, of the rattlesnake? Yeah, I guess that's what I was asking just now. Is when is the split off? Is that in astrology? Because I know absolutely nothing about astrology.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, Uranus square Saturn up until 2023, Pluto's movement into Aquarius. I feel like that'll be like the point around 2025. And again, I don't really like to put dates or predictions on things, but the bifurcation process has begun and started. And that's up to each individual, because, as long as you're still attached to the matrix or hooked into it, or, linked into the thought patterns or the AI and dark technology that, wants to activate negative emotion and mental energy, as long as we're still participating in that matrix, we're not splitting off, and at a certain point, we do run the risk of getting further assimilated into it. An awakened soul, that's going to be very, very difficult because they can see through it and they can catch themselves. But somebody who isn't quite aware is running the risk in the next couple of years that if they don't snap out of it, they're going to be further assimilated into AI. It's going to cause major digression over the course of time. And of course, the damage of, some of these tactics and the ramifications of, those kind of things like the jab and, other things, which I feel is reversible to a soul that's willing to awaken, but it's going to be a little bit harder. But yeah, so the positive kind of bifurcation is as that soul gets more and more detached, even if they have to deal with mandates and even if they have to deal with rules, nobody can enslave your mind if you free your mind. And it's very, very hard to re-enslave it unless you really fall into a pit of fear. And I think people have been processing through some triggers and some traumas and some concerns. But, somebody who's already at a certain level of self-mastery is going to be able to kind of like process through and overcome it. And I think that's where a lot of people are at right now who I would consider awakened souls. So between now and 2025, I feel like there's going to be a major split. People who are going to get more assimilated into the AI and into sort of this kind of phantom earth transhumanism. And then those that, refuse it and live in a frequency and a dimensional vibration that is beyond it. Because it can only mimic and entrain things that are vibrating at a certain level. So all these different tactics to pit us against each other and pull people into, very low, energies is how they're kind of preparing that particular human for greater invasion of archonic forces in these dark technologies. A person of love and integrity and truth cannot be overtaken by these things. They have to be falling into the pit of a much, much lower mentality and lower emotionality. And sort of like, a corrupted being is very hospitable to demonic energy, whereas a light being and a person connected to love, they can't really attach to that. There's targeting and there's all these attempts to try and defeat a person and weaken them. But this is the battleground we've been dealing with. And it's actually given a lot of us, great strength.
Yeah.
And
again, they're only making us stronger, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, Laura, go on.
Oh, yeah. That's about it.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say they're just making us stronger and more eternal power. Not eternal, internal oomph, internal motivation, internal, I will not back down. I will not succumb to the bullshit and the lower negative energy. So that's my feeling on it anyway. So you teach astrology, don't you?
Not really.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
I could. People have asked.
Yeah.
I just have my hands so full. It's like,
okay.
And I need to finish my books, but I do have, subscriptions. I give mini readings and I just, help people understand their charts. And, sometimes in a session, I'll have it up on the share screen. And, but yeah, I might end up, teaching astrology at a later stage, but I'm not teaching it right now. But I do, like I said, sessions for people. I have been for about 10 years or so.
And I would like to, I'd really like to do a meditation with you, if that's okay. It's a piece of music that I've by Elijah Ray. It's called The New Earth. I've got permission to play it from him directly. So maybe we could do that towards the end of the show, if you're sure. Okay with that. If you, I don't know if you want to lead it or if you want me to lead it or.
Oh, you can go ahead.
Okay.
I'll probably turn my camera off. I'll still be listening. Okay. And I have an appointment here in just a little bit, but I'll definitely listen. And if you see my camera off, as long as it shows that I'm still on, I'll be there. You just might not see me. Yeah.
And so, I probably mentioned that a bit too early, but so is there any positive message you'd like to share with the audience, and how can people find you? And I know that you offer, you just mentioned you offer readings as well.
Well, I don't really do readings so much, but if a person subscribes, I can do check-ins and I can do, readings, for people who are subscribed. It's a little bit easier to manage. I'm just not putting it out to the public. But yeah, best thing to do is check my website, cosmicgaia.org. You can see about, the Patreon with David Rodriguez, and that's Dark to Light, and then also my Cosmic Gaia subscription. And I'll be doing some online events. And there's a free newsletter you can sign up for to just stay, in touch in the event that, more of these platforms get shut down. It's a really good thing to, jump on that newsletter. But yeah, positive messages. We're doing a lot of inner work. We're forced, it's being forced upon us in order really handle the times that we're in. But, we have to look at it like we're traveling through the veil, and the veil has, things that are triggering places in our unconscious self, things that are trying to attach to us, things that aren't ready to allow us to leave and move on and liberate and be sovereign. So, that kind of struggle or battle, just be prepared. Stay prepared. Just do what it takes to, be strong, shielded, make sure your auric field's strong, do detoxes, ground with the earth, work with essential oils and crystals, and just know that, eventually we're going to get to the other side. And once we get to the other side, that veil between life and death and the dream realms and the waking realms, will lift, and we'll just experience our more multidimensional self. And that's when we can really begin to move from carbon-based to crystalline. But it's going to take a little bit to move through the thickness of this veil. We've been existing under this veil. These dark forces have always been there, but we accepted it as human history. We accepted the world wars and different things that took place as, oh, okay, well, that's just a part of our human history. This is all orchestrated by the cabal. They own both sides. They create these movements and, but now it's just like, whoa, okay. They're being exposed, and they want to shut down what's being exposed as best as they can. So, it's sort of like, I know I always compare it to a relationship. It's like if you're going through a divorce and you're just dealing with a terrible partner that's making life miserable, dragging you to court, maybe trying to, get custody or take you for everything you're worth, or make you look bad to others. It's like the nastiest divorce is saying goodbye to the old paradigm. And plus our attachments to it and our confusion about, what's to come. But we have to know every time we break a relationship with something unhealthy, toxic, narcissistic, abusive, tyrannical, or we overcome like a trauma, from that experience, we're that much closer to experiencing true love. We can't experience true love if we're holding on to negative, unhealthy relationships. So to me, that's what we're going through on a larger level. We're going through a massive breakup and divorce with the old paradigm. And we're going to now embrace true love, true authenticity, and real connection with ourselves, with our higher mind, with source energy, with the earth. And it's a lot to look forward to. So we just have to be very careful not to misinterpret these times in a doom and gloom kind of way. Our thoughts and our beliefs are everything right now. And that is exactly what's being targeted. So we just have to just go to the spiritual gym every day and exercise that part of ourselves that can stay strengthened in the face of things that are trying to weaken us and undermine us and cause anxiety and concern. But a lot of people are moving through grief. Lots of loss of family and friendships, because the belief system's not in alignment, is going to do that. And, obviously the truth frequency is beyond belief. It's a knowingness. And in that knowingness, there's nothing that we can't overcome. And there is really nothing to fear. And we certainly shouldn't fear death. So yeah, I just see it's going to be a little rough, for the next couple of years. But we just got to all stick together, build community, pool resources together, and turn more to each other. Yeah. And of course ourselves and especially the planetary consciousness. That's the ultimate power right now. So the planetary body and, what we're going to experience with nature and animals and just, the miracles of things that can happen in higher earth energies, we'll begin to notice more. And so, there's a lot to look forward to, even though this is really a really difficult, period. And it's actually helpful to talk about it because it's so easy to float away and just especially first thing when I wake up in the morning, I'm just like, oh my God, this world is so whacked right now.
I know.
Yeah. So my website, cosmicgaia.org. And I do 4 Zoom events a month with Cosmic Gaia, and I take questions and answers, and I just, open up a forum for people to be able to get to know each other and communicate what they're going through so that people, know that they're not alone and to keep people from, feeling isolation. Because sometimes it's like, everybody around them is not on the same wavelength and it can get very lonely. So I'm just trying to build community and dark to lights like that as well. So.
And I do have one last question for you, and it's about your ex-partner where that was an agent, because I had a similar thing, not to the extreme that you had it, but I did to have a relationship with an agent, let's call him, but not to the extreme that you had it. So does he still, is he still does he still target you? Is he still friends on Facebook? Are they still keeping an eye on you? Do they ever do they still target you in the way that they did? Do they still threaten you? What is, or do they just back off now?
I mean, you know, there's always some kind of target or some sort of, you know, person, you know, that I'm kind of contending with, that I feel is connected to all that. I don't hear from him. We certainly don't talk anymore. But yeah, I mean, there's, you know, always like trolls or, you know, people. I've had people, you know, jump onto my subscriptions that aren't, you know, there for the right reasons, that are more there to try and disrupt things. But as far as like plants being put in my place, last time I went through a severe sort of attack that really derailed me. It was probably 2016, 2017. And it was probably one of the most spiritually abusive attacks I've ever gone through. I almost didn't make it through it. Ever since then, ever since I've moved up to Montana, and my kids are here, and I got, you know, a great partner, I have felt a lot safer, more grounded. And I've just been really recovering from a lot of it, because I've been targeted since I was a kid, and I always knew that there's some sort of, you know, hidden weaponry on me. And I just knew that, you know, talking about it wasn't really going to help. And I just had to kind of like live with it and manage it and try and not let it, you know, get the best of me. But, you know, the whole human race is, you know, targeted. But as far as like plants, no, I mean, sometimes I get nervous. I mean, I have to admit, I have sometimes a little bit of paranoia, you know, like, especially when I first entered the relationship, it's kind of like, you know, are you sure you're not a, you know, and 4 years later, it's like, okay, very obvious and clear that that's not the case. So no, I don't, you know, I feel way more protected than ever, but yeah, I never doubt that they're trying to come up with like the next tactic to try and derail me. And at this point, I think they know that they've lost their grip and there's nothing they can do. So one has to just, you know, be careful though, because of devices and, you know, different triggers or thought forms that can come up. So, I mean, I feel like I'm just doing the organic healing, with less intrusion, because I use like EMF protection and work with essential oils and all sorts of high vibe kind of things. And so yeah, that's kind of to answer your question. But, you know, when I used to go to events, you know, I'd be approached by, you know, people that I would say were probably plants and sent to, you know, kind of disrupt me. I've gotten a few readings where they're like, you know, they do all kinds of like, you know, dark rituals, with specific names like yourself in mind, and do sacrifices and all sorts of stuff to, you know, trip you up and you know, and I definitely have experienced, you know, the feeling of, you know, dark weaponry that's very ungrounding. And I just do everything I can to counteract this sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, things have been pretty chill, but, you know, with what the world's going through, it doesn't feel like there's been any kind of break. So even though there hasn't been a direct target, it's like what the whole planetary energy, that what humanity is going through right now, it's just like we're all being hit. Yeah. But this is our chance as a collective to overcome. And I just, you know, really hope people come together more and choose love and not fall into the pit of, you know, hatred, conquer and divide, and all these, you know, different tactics. Because it's very sad, you know, when people start to go down that route and they don't even realize what they're turning into and what they're supporting. It's pretty scary.
Yeah, but that's not going to last. It's not going to last, you know.
Yeah.
And it's horrendous to watch. It's really heartbreaking to watch it, but I think it's part of the rebirth, because the worst things are the worst trauma is where we get to it's the caterpillar going into the butterfly stage. So that's my understanding of it anyway. So do you have any?
That's we're sort of in the goo part of it, where the caterpillar is like overthinking this metamorphosis, and it's actually fearing it when we should, you know, be embracing it. We got to just let go of the old paradigm, all these different fear tactics, and stay empowered in the face of it, because ultimately it's about our frequency and about speaking truth. So even mask or no mask, censorship or no censorship, you cannot silence this. There are plenty of alternative platforms and ways to stay connected. Sorry, what was that?
No, thanks so much. You've just got such a great way with words of expressing things. Do you have any events coming up, either online?
I do have an online event. Yes, I do have an online event with Portal to Ascension. Anybody, you can sign up on my website. I'll be sending out another blast, and I have to update my website, and I'll put the online event there. And so that's sometime in March. I think I could actually find out, but so I got the online event. I have also another event in March.
Yeah, if you want to find out, Laura, when it is, I mean,
best thing I can do is just, check my website tomorrow. I'll update it with all the online events, but I have 2 online events in March. Me and Agnost, we're going to create one, but no dates are set yet. And then Contact in the Desert. I'll be sending out blasts, and I'll make sure everybody knows.
Okay, great.
Because it might take me a while to actually find the flyer for this next one.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Well, if you want to have a look, I'm going to mention my event. So if you want to have a look now, so I have a Starseed workshop coming up on the 27th and 28th of March next month. So if anyone is interested in attending that, come and have a look at my website, which is the Pleiadianchild.com.
Nice. Okay, so I do have it, and it's called Activating Avatar Christos Matrix from 3D Reversal Grid to Diamond Sun DNA, Saturday, March 13th, 12 p.m. Pacific time. And if you're able to listen to this message, I'll give you the coupon code, and it's PTA lowercase and 25, and that'll give you 25% off.
That sounds good to me. Sign me up.
Awesome.
So is there anything else you'd like to say, Laura, before we do the meditation?
No, I don't, think so. This is a time of reunion, with the great mother and father energy, like our true connection with source, in a way that is really activating, in a way that is transforming us from the inside out. And whatever's trying to, stop that process is so less powerful. It struts its bully muscles, it's got a lot of power, but it doesn't have as much power as we think, and it's crumbling. And lots of powerful, warriors on the planet. And even though there's been not a whole lot of news as far as what's going on, I know a lot's going on behind the scenes, and the Galactics are part of it, and things put in place decades ago to ensure that we'd be able to make it through this, particular period. So it's very important to, just to stay positive. But, I know I slip out of, positive zone, and I just, try and give myself plenty of love and space to process and move through the emotions instead of denying them. So, I encourage people to not be afraid of your own anger and grief, and, just make sure to find an outlet to express it so it's not internalized, because that can create a lot of energy blocks and unwellness. So, it's okay to feel and hurt. We got to feel it to heal it. So,
yeah. There's a very good technique I used a couple of times when my mum passed away for the grief. I would go out into the mountains where there was absolutely no one, and there was no trepidation of anyone coming along or anything, in rural Ireland. And I would just go into the mountains, and I would just get down on the ground, and I would just either scream or cry or just retch it out, just let it go, because when that emotion becomes trapped in the body, it does cause dis-ease. So
yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I'll just start the meditation now, if that's okay, Laura.
Yes, and thank you so much for having me. I'm going to turn my camera off, but I'm listening, and I'll be meditating along with you, and sending you lots of love.
Yeah, and thank you so much for doing this. It's so good to talk to you, and I love your energy. I love your purpose, your mission, your reason for being here. You're just galactic. You're just galactic, and I really feel that with you. And
oh, awesome. Well, thank you for having me. It's so great to be in your company, and I love your energy and what you bring forward. So it's been really awesome. It's uplifting. I'm going to have a good day.
Well, I'm doing the meditation for you, because I feel that you're, we all have ups and downs. But anyway, so I'm doing it for you and also the listeners, but mostly you.
Oh, well, thank you.
So
okay.
So
all right, I'm listening.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to play a piece of music by Elijah Ray. I do have permission to share it. So here we go. And I will play it low and then do a meditation, like a guided meditation. Let me just turn this down a bit. And I will also share the screen as well. Okay, so when you're ready, if you close your eyes, both feet on the floor, if possible, hands in your lap. I'm actually going to just turn this down a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so get comfortable. Whether you're sat in a chair or you're laying in bed or you're on a couch or sofa, just get comfortable. That's the most important thing. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth 3 times. And you can visualize you're going up in a lift, or you're on a craft, or you're in a train, or in a car, or you're walking along, and you're in a bubble of white golden light. Debris is coming at you, and you are shifting it away, either with your mind or physically with your hands. As you walk forward, just letting it pass you by, deflecting it away from you. As it tries to come at you, whatever it is. It could be an energy, could be a feeling, could be a thought, could be a vibration. Face it head on and then let it go. So you're not avoiding, you're facing things head on, but you're letting them go, diminishing them. And I want you to visualize yourself in a bubble of white light or pink light, whatever color you choose. And it's beautiful. And as it goes out, it gets stronger and stronger. The energy gets stronger, but the color gets lighter. And then visualize your heart center growing and expanding and growing and expanding and growing and expanding. And as it does so, it becomes bigger than you. And you can see and feel that it extends, comes out from your crown chakra, and surrounds you in every direction and meets and joins beneath your feet and connects to tree energy, beautiful trees beneath you as you start to float higher and higher, reaching out in all directions so that your heart energy is expanding outside of you and is connecting with light beings, with tree energy, with sun energy, with love energy, with the Pleiadians, with the Syrians, with whoever your star tribe is, whichever star nations you're connected to. We are galactic beings, and there's nothing that can sever that connection unless we let it. Remember who you are. Remember who we are and why we're here. And yes, debris might come at us, but we're here for this time now on Earth. We know our missions. And if we don't know them right now, we'll come to know them. So feel light beings coming towards you, whether it's Jesus or Merlin or Mary or the Pleiadians or the Syrians, whoever it is, just feel them coming towards you. And as they take your hand and surround you in beautiful, loving energy, know that you are galactic. And times may be difficult, but you've got through worse. You've been through worse already. There's nothing that can happen now to you that hasn't already happened. The worst has been and gone. It's in the past.
Pizza or salad? Which one do you think I'm having for dinner?
I'm sorry about that advert. Okay. So just slowly and gently bring yourself back. The most important thing you can do now is to be kind to yourself. Be gentle, be loving. Be so loving. Be so kind to yourself. It's the most important thing to do now. And breathe yourself back into your body. For those who find it hard to ground your energy, breath is vital in grounding your energy, connecting to Mother Earth, water, drinking water, breathing, just being. So take some deep breaths. If you need to cry, cry. Don't stop emotion. Don't run from emotion. Face it gently. And be love. Be light. Be who you are. We love you. There is nothing for you to do, really, other than to just be and to just bring forth your energy, simply anchor your energy into the earth plane, into the human existence. And in doing so, you are bringing forth higher realities, higher dimensions, anchoring the new dawn, the new being. I think, my apologies, I think some of that actually didn't record. So, yeah, there was some important information that came through there. I'm not sure if you could hear me, Laura, but I think it didn't record the last section of that. So, yeah, I'm so sorry, guys, for that.
No.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to sign off, but thank you so much. That was so wonderful.
Okay, Laura.
We'll be in touch. Much love to you.
My love to you, Laura.